If I would have never decided to be an elections worker, like, I could have done anything else, but that's what I decided to do. And now people are lying and spreading rumors and lies and attacking my mom. I just felt like it was my fault for putting my family in this situation.
Election worker Shaye Moss speaking to the January 6th committee about threats she and her mother received over Trump's election lies. And now a new report from the House Oversight Committee details how misinformation puts election workers and American democracy in danger. With us now to discuss, Jane Slessor from Power to the Polls, a nonpartisan poll worker recruitment initiative. Jane, this is your day. It is Poll Worker Recruitment Day. That is what you do. But it is coming at a time when we're facing poll worker shortages across the country and real threats out there.
Yes, indeed. So thank you so much for having us. Today is Poll Worker Recruitment Day, and we are really sounding the alarm to make sure that people know that we have a poll worker shortage in this country as we head into the midterm elections. Power of the Polls was founded in 2020 because of another poll worker shortage that was caused because of COVID and the fact that so many poll workers are over the age of 60. That's the median age of a poll worker. And a lot of folks were concerned about their health in 2020. We saw polling locations shut down all across the primaries, leading to long lines and just lack of access for a lot of voters. And we saw hundreds of thousands of people step up because we put out that call to have more poll workers. And that's what we're doing again this year. The threats are different, but the challenges are not completely unique. In addition to just needing to raise public awareness around this, we're also really focusing on getting the next generation of poll workers. You know, folks are sort of retiring out of these roles. And so we're trying to find folks who will serve for the first time this year and serve for many decades to come.
But how can we ensure that people will be safe? To your point, when I grew up, it was often little old ladies in my town working at polls. My mom did for a number of years, and I wouldn't want her to today. So we know that the report is calling for increased security for election workers. But what does that look like? Shaye Moss and her mother were terrorized for months.
Yeah, so what we've seen is election administrators really stepping up, thinking about what the security looks like at different polling locations, thinking about training that they have for those poll workers to handle different situations. Unfortunately, voter intimidation is not something that's new to American society. So a lot of these administrators have dealt with this before, and they're looking at how they're going to deal with it again, trying to have a balance between providing more security while also making sure that the polls are as accessible as possible to everybody. One of the things that we at Power the Polls have found to be incredibly inspiring in all of this is that when people hear about threats to poll workers, that actually inspires them to sign up. When people think about and hear about the polarization around elections, they think, I want to stand up and do this in my community because I know how critical it is for everybody in my community to be able to vote. And so rather than sort of putting people off, people really feel this motivation to step up. And that's why it's so important for us to raise awareness around this, to acknowledge the challenges that we're facing this year, but also to acknowledge that a lot of folks who are, people's moms, they are people that show up for most of the neighborhood needs that their neighborhood has. Those are the folks who are showing up to be poll workers this year, just because they want to make sure everybody in their community can vote.
And what happens if the very people who ran those good poll workers out of their jobs, what if those people then fill them?
Well, we do see that there have been some recruitment efforts in different areas to get folks in who come in with that perspective. A lot of election administrators, it's not very easy to become a poll worker. It's a really difficult job. It requires making it through lots of trainings, making it through different types of vetting. So I feel pretty confident that election administrators are really focused on getting folks who are showing up for the right reasons. We have lots of people who say, I don't care if you vote for this person or that person. I don't care if people are showing up to vote for whoever my candidate is. I just want to make sure that everybody can. And administrators are good at weeding out folks who have different motivations and making sure that they have poll workers there who are really motivated for the right reasons.
Poll workers, also known as patriots. Jane, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it.